Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm T with Teresa H Creates, and it's the video we've all been waiting for. It's the final video in my accordion binding tutorial, and in this video we're attaching this cover. Finally! Let me get some things prepped and we'll get started. All right, before we get to the technical part, there are some things that I wanted to do to prep. For the cover, I've kind of been thinking about what I want this cover to look like, and I have some ideas rolling around in my head, and there are a few elements that I would need to prepare beforehand if I'm going to use them on my book cover. So I wanted to kind of make some mica type coverings, and I don't know that this is going to work 100%. I've never done this way. So what I have here is Ranger Glossy Accents. This is a clear dimensional medium, but it also has kind of a resin-like finish to it. And I am going to take some and run it over this tissue paper that I have here in the hopes that because of the nature of this glossy accents, it will work as a resin and kind of harden this paper up, but also make it a little bit transparent and a little bit aged. So giving it the look of maybe a mica sheet is what I'm thinking. For any of you who know what the little mica sheets look like, I used to have some in my collection, and I think it took me like forever to use them. So I actually may have purged them. Either I hid them really, really well in my stash over here, or I purged them, but I could not locate them. So I don't know that this is going to work 100%, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not going to do this entire sheet. I was just going to do a little bit front and back here and see what we get. If I can't use it for this project, I'll definitely be able to use it for another one. So I'm not worried about that. In order for this to work kind of like a resin, you do have to do it on front and back to make it a little bit more transparent. So we've got it on the front and the back of this sheet. All right, I'm going to go ahead and transfer it just to a different sheet to dry. You can tell that Glossy Accents hasn't been used in a while. I actually have a new bottle. This is an older bottle. It was really hard to get anything out of it, so it was kind of perfect for this project. All right, look at that. Look at the difference. It is shiny. There is some texture in that tissue paper. There is a little bit of color in that tissue paper. So like I said, I'm hoping that when this dries, it'll form like some mica looking sheets. Hopefully we'll get that accomplished, but I wanted to show you that process just so that you know what that looks like in case that's something you ever want to do. Using the glossy accents is a little bit easier than pulling out all the resin stuff. I do believe now that they do make entire resin kits that you only have to use one bottle. Back in the day when I did it, you had to mix up 2 different solutions and combine them just right, and that's how you did your resin. It was a bit of a pain. It was quite smelly. You had to do it outside. It's quite the undertaking, especially if you're kind of a novice crafter. So I didn't want to overwhelm you with that, and I think that this might be a quicker and easier way to get that same look. All right, and here's our cover. Before we attach it, I want to see if maybe there's something I want to do to decorate the insides of these, or something that I need to go ahead and fix. I like this rough edge, so I think that I'm actually going to leave it. I'm not going to mess with that because I think that that actually looks good. And we're going to cover the majority of this anyway, like at least up to here. I'm going to go ahead and glue this part down so that it's just a little bit more stable. Okay, but I like this aged look. I don't mind all those numbers and that writing and everything there. I don't mind this torn bit here that kind of adds to the whole thing, but I do want to go over it with a stencil and maybe some walnut ink. Let's pull some walnut ink out. And this way, adding this to it will just kind of bring it all together. The same stencil pattern can be found inside of our signature pages. And now it'll be on the inside of our book as well. Look at that. That's gorgeous. Okay. Let's do the same over here on this side. Looks good. And I'm doing this in the walnut stain distress ink. Now let's see. Looks really good. I wonder if the backs of these would take anything. It's really, really dark, so I don't know that it actually would take any of this. But let's see. Oh, a little bit. It did a little bit. We'll do here and maybe some over here. All right, let me put that aside. Most of this is probably going to be covered, but just in case some of this peeks through, let's go ahead and put some down. Particularly like in these corners. All right. I think that that looks good. This right here, all of this aging, I love, so I'm going to keep it. And I think I'm going to decorate the cover once it's attached. Let's go ahead and attach this back cover first, and then we'll attach the front cover. I'm going to be doing a lot of moving around with it. All right. I'm going to use a combination of double-sided tape and wet glue again. Let me burnish this down and peel this off. All right. Let's get it glued up. And I want to kind of center it and then press it down. It's going to go all the way to the edge, just like that. See, it's going to be flush with the binding. And you want it centered. All right, let's look at this. There we go. There we go. Looks like it's down really, really well. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. Now let's talk about the different options for attaching while that dries. With this particular binding, you can attach it one of two ways. You can either place your cover inside and bring this over so that it looks like this, right? So it wraps around. It's got a nice, sturdy feel to it. But you can also, like we did with the back cover, you can also place it on top and have it hinge from the inside. It really just depends, I feel like, on your cover and your materials. Let's go back to my samples. This book board here is nice and thin, and it's about the same width of these signatures, and I just felt like wrapping it around gave it a more secure feel. With this one, I did the opposite. I placed it on the inside. It was just because it was that purple binding, and I really wanted it to just stop here and not go around the edge of the cover. So that one was just an aesthetic preference. This one doesn't have a cover yet, so my options are open. So it can go either way. There's no right or wrong with this. It's just a personal preference. So honestly, I think it comes down to the feel of your journal, the type of cover you have, and what feels more secure to you. This is old. This is really old. It's really aged. I prefer that it not mess with any of this, and I really get to look at all of this aging on the side of the book cover when I open it up. I like that look better. So that's the reason I chose this method rather than wrapping it around. So let's go ahead and place this tape. But again, just a personal preference. If your journal is feeling loosey-goosey and you would rather have that cover attached with a wraparound to feel more secure, then there you go. Personal preference, either way works. Okay, let me get my glue down. Okay, so we want to try to line it up with this one. But the signatures are longer than the book. So I've got to kind of play around with it for a second. I think that that's about right. It's flush. Yep, and it looks even. Get rid of some of this glue here. There we go. I'm going to give it a press. And then I'm going to open it up and make sure there isn't glue coming out on the inside that's going to glue my cover to the first page, and it's not. We're good. I added some of this tape here, and it was just because it was an aesthetic. I wanted this look here. That was all. It doesn't serve a purpose. That's just some of that vintage tape that I made from packing tape. So look at that. and it's attached. Our cover is down. All right, now let's cover up the inside. I don't want to leave this visible, so I'm thinking about ways to cover the inside. I could put a paper down. I could put some fabric down, but I think as I was going through my stuff, I think I might try putting this down. This was some of that dyed doily paper. It's like doily trim. And look at how beautifully dyed that is. And I was thinking that this might be a good place for it. I thought that the look of that was really, really nice with all of this. I think that this is a good choice. This is what we're going to go with on the inside here. Let me give this a little mark. There we go. And then I can cut a not so straight line because that's what I do. I think I'm going to go ahead and attach this with a combination of double-sided tape and wet glue. Let's see if we can get some stuff here to hold it down for me. I'm just going to put the double-sided tape on the bottom flat part of this. And this is really delicate because it's doily. But I want it to adhere really, really well to that book. Let's peel this up. My allergies are really going lately. I never really suffered from allergies until just a few years ago, and all of a sudden I am just constantly having to blow my nose, it seems, and I do take an antihistamine in the morning, so I can't imagine how much worse it would be if I didn't do that. And I think it usually happens worse when we've had rainy weather and then it gets hot, which is pretty much what this summer has been. Lots of rainy weather, and then so a lot of moisture and then heat. And so I think it's the mold. I think that's what I'm sensitive to. All right, we've got that put down. I think that I like this kind of loose. If it becomes an issue later on, we can always go through and just kind of spot glue and glue it down. But I kind of like that it's loose there. So let's leave it loose and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to do the same on this side. This is what it looks like. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. And I'm glad we decided to do the stencil here. That adds so much to it. And then the back side, it's beautiful. It is so beautiful. And then this is what it looks like from the back. And let's start pulling out some of our stuff for our cover. Some things that I'm looking at. Okay. So I really like this guy. I wanted to add it. There was also this picture frame, and here's the deal. So I love this image here. I love it, but I also wanted to use this. So I was thinking about putting this in the frame, but just on the outside of the frame, not on the inside of the frame, because then we would cover too much of it up. So I'm thinking about that, and I just don't know 100%. Let's play around with it a little bit. So I can put this here, right? But see, if I want to add this, this goes over it. So that's just kind of eh. But I could put this on this and use this as the cover. Or I guess I could try to hinge this again. It was hinged and it could open. But I don't know if I want to do that. I kind of want just one nice big focal point. So I think I'm going to go with this. So let me set this aside and I'll just use this with something else. Let's go ahead and distress this up. This is actually old. This is vintage. Okay. So if we do this and I put this leaf across here, which is fine, but I need something in that background. So I was thinking maybe of using some of this French book page that I pulled out and then haven't used for anything. Slide this in here. Might make a nice background. Not cow. You have to pay attention to those things. It says cow here, so cow is what would be displayed. I feel like we need something in the background. Let's look at some laces that I can lay under this. Here's some really heavy crocheted bits here. So if I got that to the edge. And then put this down. What do we think? That's not bad. Oh, this might be the winner. I actually like that. Let's go ahead and just trim some of this off so we can get a better idea of what that will look like. It kind of comes over. Maybe we want it on this side. What do we think of that? Do we like that side better? Okay. I'm just going to leave it, and I'm going to kind of keep working this, and I'm going to move it around here and there, and then that way I can get a better idea of what I like. And now I kind of like this sticking out here on this edge. Should I do any stamping in the background of that? Maybe not stamping. You know what I could do? I could add some of that stencil image. I have to be really careful. This is so delicate. I'm not going to be rough. Just going to add a little bit here. There we go. And it's got this little tear right here, which is awesome, but I think I might put some tape over that. I'll pull out some of my vintage tape here. Add a little bit of glue and then fold it over. I'll just do it the whole way. There we go. I like this. We've got this bit of spine. Put something right across here maybe. What if we did some eyelets and actually hung some like dangles or charms off of that? Let's give it a try. We don't have to dangle something across the entire thing, but let's do maybe 5. Let me search through this and I'll find 5 eyelets. Well, that truly was like searching for a needle in a haystack. All right, so I've got 2 snaps actually and 3 eyelets. So I'm thinking that I'm going to give that a shot. So I kind of marked where I wanted these snaps to go. So let me set my crocodile settings. When you're doing the snaps, you want it flat on one side. That way it doesn't hurt the top of that snap. And there we go. Let's put the other one in here. Love this crocodile. Should it go off a little bit or not? I don't know. My scissors. I'm going to make it a little long at first just to see, and I wonder if this will, yep, that's what I was hoping for. Oh, good. So now we've got kind of a rough end over here too. Good. Because I'm thinking if it's a little bit longer that I kind of like that. Okay, so where do we put our eyelets? That is somewhat center, right? Center-ish. I don't care that it lines up straight. I'm looking for rough here anyway, so I'm just kind of ballparking everything because I don't need it to be absolutely correct. See, and that's not even. That's why don't overthink it. All right. I changed my setting. Now I'm going to want it on this little side so it holds that little eyelet in place. There was a learning curve for using this, but it's super easy once you get the hang of it. And they do have a guide. There is a guide. Crocodile provides a guide for which settings you want to put it on for whatever size eyelets you're trying to set. It's a good thing we're not going for perfection because that definitely is not straight. But that's fine. Okay, let's see what we might want to dangle. Instead of jump rings, I'm thinking maybe I'll use bulb pens because they hang a little bit lower. We'll give it a shot with this first and see if that is better. Because I kind of want them to dangle a little bit, but I don't know that using jump rings is going to work because that'd have to be a really big jump ring. Or we'd have to do several. Let's look at all my bits. Okay, not really seeing a lot there. That's a lot of my steampunk stuff anyway. All right, but wait, there's more. See lots of bees and dragonflies. All right, nothing in there. Let me put these back. But wait, there's more. I know, I have so much stuff and I've really got to go through and sort it and put it in its place. It needs to find its place. Is that Scottish thistle? That's pretty. These aren't the right colors, but they're really pretty. The problem is that I like the idea of having those there and having something dangling, but I don't really have an idea of what. Like there wasn't a plan for what. So I'm just trying to see if something catches my eye. I pulled this guy out. Let me see if I can open it. It has these little bits here. And I could place something in them. Oh, there's already something in that one. Anyway, I could place something in them and then, you know, fill those up with some of that glossy accents. And then we'd have these little danglies. I just kind of want to see. Yes. Okay, those are perfect. Those are perfect for this. Yep. And that's the right length and everything. So that's what we're going to do. So let's find something to put in those. All right. Let's do 3 of those. What little bit of something do we have? So we have this little book page. We can do that. Maybe some music. Oh, how about, now this is really subtle. It would be very, very subtle, but I think it would be kind of cool. What if we put some of this music paper in there from the actual book? We removed it from that book. Oh my goodness, it's been forever since I've used these. This is really wide, so I'm gonna have to cut much, much smaller. Okay. Let me get my scissors. Ooh. I'm trying to cut just on the inside of that pencil line to see. Oh no, even smaller. It is nowhere. Oh, it is nowhere near a circle. Nowhere near. Okay, let's see if it fits though. Okay, but we can make it fit. So there we go. Pull this out. We're going to put resin on top of it, but I am going to go ahead and put a little drop of glue to glue it down. All right, next. Good deal. And I kind of want to put a little color in there, make it a little bit darker, you know? So let me see. I'm going to drop some of this vintage photo in there. I am going to take my little paintbrush. And because this reconstitutes, if I put a little bit in here, once we put that glossy accent in there, it'll pick up that color. And it'll color some of that glossy accent. I could go in and just add this directly to the glossy accents, but because I'm putting it in directly from the bottle, it's really not going to work that way. So that way this looks a little bit more aged inside. That should do it. I hope that that turns out well and I didn't just mess that up. I think it'll be fine. Either way, I like that it's a little bit darker because that's what we're going for, right? We're trying to go grungy. And then here is my newer bottle of glossy accents. It is clogged, so I'm going to use my needle for my art glitter glue to see if I can clog it. And then my fear is always that I'm going to have some of this glossy accents on that, and then that needle is going to get glued permanently onto this metal tip. I love using glossy accents for adhering metal bits to projects because it just works fantastically well. All right. Let's fill this guy up. It will self-level, which is awesome, but it will take a while to dry. Okay. There we go. I know it's cloudy now, but it's actually going to dry clear. So don't let that concern you if you're new to glossy accents, you haven't used it before. Okay, I am going to very carefully push these aside. All right, I'm gonna allow those to dry, and then we'll come back and we'll attach them to this little guy and then figure out where we're going to place him. All right, look, our tissue paper is dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and tear this. All right, see how it is nice and stiff and also very transparent. That's what we wanted. But I am going to take this guy, and I'm not putting any more ink on it, but I am going to go over this with whatever might be on here already, just to see if we can get it, you know, aged up a little bit more. All right, but take a look at it. Isn't it pretty? It's so pretty. Okay, my thought is to use this almost like it's those mica sheets. So I'm gonna just start tearing and see if I can get kind of more of a look like a mica sheet would have. I don't have a lot of this, so I really need to be careful. And do it like this, or do I want it like that? Okay, I'm just gonna rip this in half. I may regret it later, but what's done is done. Okay, maybe if I attached this here. Okay, here's a larger sheet here. So what if we do something like that? Or something like that? How does that look? I'm liking it. I like it. I like it. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and commit. Oof, that's okay. And this is real. This is a real dried leaf. I found it in that French pronunciation book. Okay. Okay, that's done. All right, and then I was going to do this little bit up here. And I'm fine with this look because it'll make it look like it's broken. That's what I'm thinking. Like it'll look like the mica was placed here and then it was broken over time. Did we have this piece over here? Was this piece? And that's kind of what I'm thinking, you know, like it just kind of shattered over time. And then we'll put this guy right up here or right down here, one or the other. I'm going to commit to that. I'm just going to use small dabs of glue. So here, here, and maybe some down in here to place these. Let me hold it for a second. It should dry clear. And then we'll do here, here, and here. There we go. Just give it a little press. What do we think? Can you see that? You can still see through it, but it gives a little bit of a haze there. And I feel like it could be kind of those mica sheets. Do we want to put one across here? I kind of want to add this metal bit here, like it's holding it in place. Put the brad in it. And then I can do another one, maybe here. Let's do that. I'm going to do that. However, I'm going to color these first because I don't want them that color. All right, let me use some of this wax paper here. So as you can see, these guys are kind of a bronzy color, and then these guys are like silver. They're like an aged kind of silver, maybe pewter color, I don't know. I used this with when I was making my vintage tape. Okay, so I've got caramel and latte. So I'm going to add some color to those. I'm going to use that same foam. I'm not worried about it. And I'm going to add a little bit of color with this alcohol ink. Is that dark enough? Let me see. Ooh, I might add some ginger. Alcohol ink is great for coloring up metal. Perfect for it. And it dries pretty quickly. All right. I need to get more colors. I'm running low. I've had these guys for forever though. A little bit goes a long way with the alcohol inks. Okay. So just so that you can kind of see that, we've colored them and I'm going to allow them to dry and then we will attach them to this board. Those won't take long to dry at all. So in the meantime, I'm going to pull out my piercing pad, my little piercing book, and I'm going to go ahead and pierce this. So what do we think about right there? That way I'll be able to put that brad through there. So let's pull our book back out. Okay, so this one is definitely going there. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in. All right, I'm going to turn this over, trying to be as careful as possible. So do we think here or here? I kind of like it here. Let's do here. So we like it right there. All right, so let's pop this into place. You see that alcohol ink's already dry. All right, and be very gentle. Give it a push, just to make it as flat as possible. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and call this a wrap on the cover because you've seen all the elements that are going to go into the cover. I'm just waiting to glue this part down until I figure out whether or not I'm definitely putting this here and whether or not I want to put another clip up here to hold that in place. And then of course, I'm not going to lock this into place until those dangly elements are dry. And that'll be probably a 24-hour period. So let's go ahead and call this done and then we'll do a flip through. And then you can see all the glorious details. It's flip through time. I'm so excited. My journal is finally done. I did decide to go ahead and use the third sheet that I did with the glossy accents to form kind of like the mica look on this. But let me see if I can get in here and get a close-up of everything. So I did the French Mon journal and then the little tabs here holding everything in place. This does come off the edge. I didn't want everything to be so neat and pretty. This is our grungy junk journal. Here are the little jewelry bits that we put the music sheet in, and then I did a little bit of the walnut stain. No, it was vintage photo in there and then covered in glossy accents. So hopefully that's coming through. You can see the music sheet in there and it looks nice and vintagey, but it's held on with a bulb pin. This was part of the spine that was removed from the original book cover. Look at this lace. It's not all the way down. It's just down underneath this little frame. So it does flop back and forth. And then this is the spine. I didn't want this black piece to just be solid black because of the vintage nature of the journal. So I did take some of those dictionary pages and I would just put some of the art glitter glue on it. I would stick them in here, kind of press down with my bone folder to get them to stick to the sides. And then I would go in after they dried and I would rip them out so that it was torn edges and things. And then finally, after that was done, I put some glue, kind of just skimmed it over the top, laid it down, and then did the same thing. And then that's how you get these little chunks that are on here. Let me bring it in closer so you can see. I just really wanted it to have kind of an aged look back there as well. I didn't want it to be nice and clean and pretty, right? It's not what we were going for. And then this is what it looks like here. Let me turn it to the side so you can get all of it. Beautiful, right? All of that texture and then the full length. And then the back I just left plain. We've got a little bit of that stencil that's showing through, but then that is it. All right, let's go ahead and flip it open. I love that this journal sits flat. That's awesome. I did a lot of grunging, so a lot of inking, a lot of stamping. Here's the dyed doily piece that I had. It was like a doily trim. Lots of extra stamping and stuff. I did a lot of stamp offs, a lot of shadow stamping. So basically I used a combination of walnut stain, distress ink, the VersaFine Onyx Black, and the VersaFine Clair Pine Cone. And I went through and I would stamp, and when you do a second generation stamp, it's lighter than the first, and that's what I wanted. And I didn't want my stamping to be perfect because I wanted it to be nice and grungy. So there's a little cluster up here. So I didn't want, I didn't want it to be perfect. I had a little bit of that spine left over. I did do some stamping on it and then attached it to this little guy just to give it a little something. The texture on this is fantastic though. Here's a little envelope. It's got a little card inside, but just lots and lots of stamping. Lots of first and second generation stamping, like I said, just so that I kind of get some off stamps. And it's grungy, so you're not really worried about getting the perfect stamp, and that's what I liked about a lot of this. I ended up doing the stamping when it was all together because I wanted it to be a little bit off. I didn't want it to be perfect. So there's a little journal card. There's another little journal card. These back in this pocket. I used a lot of my scraps for this. Little labels and stamps, lots of that crocheted bits, lace trim, lots of texture in here. It's just been a little label here. It's been such a pleasure doing this. This journal has really been a lot of fun and something different than I've done in a while. It's really helped with that desire to not have to do any stitching. And then there's that piece of Braille with that hodgepodge stamp from Tim Holtz on it and a little bit of trim. I like the look of all that. Let me pick up the paste. Some of these I didn't put anything on them. This is just a collage here, and then I did put some of that hand-dyed paper that I do back here just so that it had some writing space on the back. So not everything has a stamp or anything or something on it. So journaling card here. I did add this little lace bit to this pocket. I just felt like it needed a little something. And then I ended up using that cover collaged on the back. And then there you go. There's a journal card in here. Pocket, so a little journal card there. This is our 4th signature. I think this is signature 4 here. Let me straighten those out and let it lay down. So this is the book actually laying flat. I'm not supporting it at all. So it does lay nice and flat. Here's our peekaboo pocket. And then I did put a little alcohol ink on this to kind of tone down that silver color. I've got a little trim there. And inside this pocket is a journaling card. This was actually one of those inside pages of that book. I just liked the way it was aged and stained and had some writing and scribbles on it. So I just put some scraps over the top of it and made it a journaling card. And then here you go. There's this guy in the center. This feels fantastic. It's a really, really thick, heavyweight cotton paper. And then there's a pocket here. And I've got another, there's a little pocket in that envelope. And then this folds out. Got a little cluster here. I did some butterflies here. I just wanted to kind of cover that part up where we put the hinged base there. The hinged attachment, so it's nice and distressed. And you can see a little bit of that butterfly paper peeking through. And then this is signature 6. Again, got that nice burlap in there. Packing paper turned out beautifully. I love the way that was dyed. This is just a little paper clip here, one of those tiny Tim Holtz paper clips, and I put this tag on there, and then on the inside of this is another tag. And I'm using the twine on both of those. All right, and then final signature, signature 7. This doily is so pretty. I did a belly band here on this. Covered up those sentiments. I didn't want to touch this guy because it is truly vintage. So I didn't want to mess it up. It is quite delicate. Another cluster here. And then the end. There it is. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. It turned out better than I actually expected, and I had so much fun doing this. I know this was a really long series, so it's what, 6, 7 parts now? I'm not sure, but anyhow, I hope that you enjoyed the entire process. I really wanted to do this type of video where I just showed beginning to end what I did to put this journal together, and it is quite chunky with 7 actual big signatures and 3 pocket attachments throughout. So quite big. And when it's all said and done, let's see what the spine measures on this. It looks like 2 1/4 inches. So there you go. And then there's still room for expansion. It's not an alligator mouth at all. So I could still add stuff if I wanted to, but I really wanted there to be a little bit of decoration and journaling. I really wanted the pages to speak for themselves though, and I really wanted there to be a lot of writing space. I wanted it to be a writing journal. So that is it. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks for spending some time with me, and until next time, bye.